Ready to start. So Nicole is a senior executive with over 20 years of experience leading the learning and development initiatives for major national retailers, including The Gap, Toys R Us, and The Vitamin Shop. Her passion for taking on new challenges and building high-performance, diverse teams led her to her current role at CCA Global Partners, one of the largest purchasing cooperatives in the retail space with more than 2,800 locations in North America. As VP of CCA Global University, Nicole leads the learning and development for the employees and retail members of CCA. She is focused on empowering employees to learn and fill skill gaps to build their careers. She is inspired by transforming the professional lives of individuals and thereby transforming her organization through fostering authentic connections and facilitating strategic and innovative learning plans. Nicole, welcome, and I'm going to hand the screen to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everyone who's joined or listening to a recording. That was kind of a mouthful. I hope I can live up to the challenge. What I will tell you is, in addition to whatever intro Chris has had, it is true that I'm very, very passionate about the people part of business. I view our strategies around people with a business is people, process, and product. You have to have a great product, of course, to run your business. Hopefully you have a really good process. And then that people leg of the stool, I think it's forgotten sometimes, and that is our biggest asset. And so in this conversation that we have together, I'll just tell you quickly what we're going to cover. And I hope that you'll be able to engage through the chat or with any questions that you might have. Don't hesitate to drop them in there and make this interactive. I'm going to talk about how you're finding your talent. What are you doing to really find great people? How you train your folks, and is that a part of the strategy that you have as a business? You certainly should. You should be thinking about that. It should be as structured as any other part of your strategies for your business. How you coach folks for success. And then what are you doing to reward and recognize your people? These used to be things that were nice to haves. And now in the current climate, with the employee base out there, these are things really that you must have. And so I'm going to jump right into the conversation and get us going. I hope I'm going to do that. Let's see. There we go. So we really look at our people in terms of leadership. I'm hoping that you're doing that too. I'm hoping even, your newest hourly employee, that you're thinking of that person as a leader in your business. Really putting a value on them. I hope you know how much you're paying, how much of total sales they are for your business, and where are they able to show leadership. Often we wait to give titles to people, and that's when they become a leader. And I believe that the leader shows up, even a teenage employee on a first job has an opportunity to show leadership. And that's really where it starts. I think people can lead in all situations, and you as the business owner or the business leader, you are in charge of really steering that ship and making sure that that's a focus and putting that into play largely. I'm going to talk about a couple of strategies that might help you do that. Maybe there's some of them that you're doing already, and maybe there's some things that you hear today that might be something you might want to start. And so, again, it goes back to a strategy. This should not be, an afterthought, or think about when you're getting product for your business, like how much thought goes into that? How many meetings do you have? How many people do you connect to? Are you doing those same kind of meetings and time commitments to your people strategy about how you're finding them, how you're paying them, and how you're growing them? And often where I see gaps is in the amount of structure put into place for your people. I'm going to talk about a few of those structures that work successfully with our groups, and hopefully you can customize to what might work for you. But I'm really, really hopeful that at the end of the day, you can put something into place like this week. These are things that are very easy to implement right away. And some of them we'll even try to get into right on this call. So the first thing around the mechanics that we're talking about again is recruiting, training, coaching, and then reward and recognize. We're going to start with finding the best people. So none of the rest works. These gears don't work if you don't have the right people to put into the start with, put into the gear shifts to start. So where are you getting your people? If you can take a minute right now and drop into the chat some of the places that you might be finding great people. So I'm going to give you 1 minute to go ahead and figure out where the chat is. It should be at the top of your screen. And if you are able, go ahead and write in the chat, where are you getting folks? And while people are doing that, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about this environment that we're in. And you'll see my Tinder shot here, which I love, heartbreak, because it's heartbreaking to me when we don't find great people. And so it is a two-way street in this current climate. It used to be that you offered a job, you offered a wage, and then you could pick and choose who you wanted to come work for you. And now it is a little bit different. Now, as much as you are reviewing resumes and reviewing experiences and trying to choose who should be the right fit for your organization, now the employee is doing the same thing. They are looking at your reviews. They are checking out how your business looks, and they are making assessments on their own around if they want to work for you or not. I'm going to peek into the chat because I do see that there are a few things put in there, and I hear people say word of mouth, existing connections, trusted referrals. We have a company that took advantage of summer student program, found 2 really great high school students. I love this. Church, I love this. I love this community connection. This is really excellent, guys. These are great places. I often say, go ahead and pay folks to bring you people. If your current employees are really great, I would offer them an incentive to bring you a great person if you have a need that's immediate. Who better knows your business than the person who's already working there? And you should be recruiting all the time. And so if you're going out to dinner and you get great service, if you're at the grocery store and the checkout line, that great personality, that great eye contact, those are things that largely are tougher to train than the actual skills of the job. And so I want to encourage you, if you're not always recruiting, you might say, Nicole, I don't have an opening right now. Well, you may have an opening and you don't know it. People are quitting and staying. That is a fad right now. So they've quit. They're doing the minimum amount of the job, but they're still collecting their paycheck from you. So you never know when you're going to have a need. And if you find a great person, you should be able to find a spot for them in your business, and your business will expand to allow that person to succeed. I strongly believe that, and our evidence indicates that as well. So these are some really great locations for you to find, folks. I heard schools, I heard church, community. I'm moving along to see if I can move this, pardon me, there we go. So while you're finding the person, let me tell you some of the things that are happening that are making it tougher, things you can do right now to really get focused on increasing your success rate. How fast are you responding to people in that queue in the interview process? One of the things that we're learning is that our folks have been slow to respond. The business just gets so fast and you have a million things to do. And if you're down a person, it means you're wearing even more hats. But when you get a great applicant, you must respond quickly. As fast as you would respond to a lead in your business, you should be responding to a potential applicant that you're interested in? How much are you paying? Well, you got to know your market. You have to know your competition. And you have to know what you're paying your people. And I know this seems very silly, but often these are jobs that are done by other people in the business. And it may have been a little while since you've really sat down and looked at your overall pay strategy. And I'd ask you to do that right now when you leave this call. Really get a handle on, do I know what everybody's making? Do I know what my competition is making? And spend some time really working through that so that you have a strategy. Also, the folks have been around for a really long time. Is it time to reassess where they're at? Is it time to really look at what do you require to get a raise or an increase? Do people have to do a certain amount of training? Are there goals in place for your staff? A lot of times I've had people say to me, hey, at the end of the year, if we did great, I give a bonus. If we didn't, they don't get a bonus. Well, that may have worked in the past, but our current job market is really requiring a lot more. They want to know what is their future. What is the structure and plan? They don't want to be surprised. They don't want it to be subjective. They want to know if I meet certain KPIs, I'm going to be rewarded appropriately. So I would ask that you look for that in your business. Do you know what it is off the top of your head? Can every manager talk about those things? Have you talked about this in your one-on-one meetings? When you're putting out ads, I would ask that you think about the language. Language is really big right now. Floor covering, installer is not that sexy. So you might have to think about what kind of ad are you putting in. You might want to use some different language, your sales professional language, your manager language. What are you putting in there in terms of your ads? You have to understand now we have algorithms that are crawling and picking up keywords. So having keywords in your ads and in your job titles is really, really critical. And then the last thing in this space around what to really look for in yourself as a business, what you can do better. What is your online presence? What do your reviews look like? What does your website look like? When somebody calls on the phone, how do you sound? When I come in for an interview, how does the space look where you're sitting down with me having a conversation? How does the bathroom look? Your presence in person and online is more critical now than it ever has been before. And it could make a difference because that applicant might be interviewing at 3 or 4 different places, and they may all pay the same thing. So what that applicant is looking for is a fit, just like you're looking for a fit. Do I feel comfortable here? Are the people really friendly? Is everyone saying hello? Is this a place I can grow? Is this a place I can make a career? Those are the things you should be looking for. So fast response, know the pay in your market, keywords for better ads, and then what's your online presence. Before I sat down and interviewed a person, I would really go through all of these things in my business to make sure that I was front and center and really ready to go and ready to be competitive. And so you want to make sure you're looking at that. And I would like to know, again, I'm going to ask folks to jump into that chat and tell me, what are you doing to attract great talent? So you told me where you're going, but are there anything, things that you might be doing to really bring people on board? What do you have that you might want to share with some others? So I'll look and see if the chat lights up. I'm not seeing anything yet, but let's see what people are doing to attract great people. I see somebody's jumped in, so thank you for listening in. The first impression is the long lasting, absolutely. So it sounds like, Chris is saying he's going to make a first impression that looks really good. People are going to want to connect with him. I do thank you notes. I send thank you notes after I talk to every person, whether I'm going to move forward with them or not, because I know that even though they may not be a colleague, they may always be a customer. And so I always want to have that personal connection with them. Also, the website, looking good on our website is very important. So what I'd ask you to do is really think about what are some things you can do. Have you thought about this? I'm in the interview process, what makes you say, wow? Do you ever go to, a restaurant and I order the same dessert, by the way. I'm a cheesecake girl. I order cheesecake for dessert no matter where I go. But there's every now and then it's in a special kind of plate, or there's a little chocolate on top, or there's something to make me go, wow, it's still the same cheesecake, but I'm going to remember that I got it from this location. And that's what I'm asking you to do around attracting great talent. What are you doing to make yourself stand out? It's that whole, sort of Tinder match. You want to be picked by them as well. So that's what we want to talk about in terms of our people. I'm going to try to move this right along again. And the mechanics continue. So you find a great person, and now it's time to train them and to develop them. And again, I'm going to reiterate, this was something that used to be really thought about as a nice to have. And right now in this current climate, training and development is absolutely necessary to keep people engaged, to keep the morale right, and to keep them focused on what's going to happen next. And so let's get into this a little bit more. You see here it says, you get the right people on the bus, but they also have to be in the right seat on the bus. What is their role? What are their responsibilities? Have you laid that out for them? And then what skills do they need to grow in the organization or to be successful? I have people who do commission only pay, and it starts immediately. And I always have a pushback on this because I said, can't we get the person up and running and trained before their actual livelihood and their pay is commensurate with, what they're doing? How can they immediately be successful if they don't know the operation of your business? And so getting them in and then getting them in the right seat is going to be really critical. And I would ask you to do this. Evaluate your team. And so, folks, I cannot see everyone, unfortunately, because I'm looking at my screen, but I would ask you to think about force ranking your team. This is something you can do right now while we're on this WebEx together. Think about your entire team. If you have a piece of scrap paper in front of you, write down the names of the 6 people, that you work most closely with. If it's less than 6, that's okay. If it's more than 6, you don't have to worry about the whole team, but go ahead and write down their names while we're here talking. I'm going to give you 1 minute to do that. Next to their names, if it's 6 people, you're going to have a 1 and a 6. 1 is the best person and 6 is the not best person. Now, 6 could be really, really great. And I hope that they are. I hope all your people are really, really tight, but it could be a big gap. You can't even see my hands. And so 1 and 6, there could be a big space in between. So I ask you to evaluate your team. When is the last time you really looked at, how people are doing? A lot of times that number 1 person, your go-to person, that person is largely overtasked. That person could be overwhelmed. And because they're great, we keep giving them new tasks. That doesn't last forever. That could really allow you to lose your best person. What about that number 6? Is number 6 just your team is so great that everybody's rocking and you really struggle to choose who was number 1 and who was number 6? Or is number 6 so bad that you knew they were bad last year and the year before that, but, they're there? What are you doing about that person? The reason I'm asking you to evaluate your team is because before you can think about training or developing them, you need to know where they're at and that their needs are different. It isn't a one size fits all. And training and development largely comes with an investment. You got to pay in time or for classes or sessions or education. And if you're going to make an investment, you want to make sure that it's a good match. So first you want to evaluate your team. And this is another way that you can do it. You can look at the gaps. I'm not sure if anyone's ever done this before. Feel free to share in the chat if you've ever done this, but ask these 3 questions. Do they get the job? So you have your list of people. For each of those people, ask this question. Do they get the job? Yes or no? Do they want it? Do they want to do it? Yes or no? And then, how is the performance? Do they have the knowledge and skills to actually do it? And the reason I ask to know your gaps is because if you get a yes or no in any of these 3 questions, what you do will be different. If they don't get the job, I'm going to have to do a lot of explaining, a lot of very direct conversation. If they get it and they just don't know how to do it, then I'm going to train on how to do it. I don't have to explain it. They already know what to do. And do they want it? So I'm going to use an example with myself, not about work, but about losing weight. It always works really well. I don't need to know anything else about losing weight. I have read every book. I've watched every podcast. I've gone to the gym. I've worked with a trainer. So I know that fewer calories and more movement equals lost pounds. But the aspire part is where I have trouble. Do I want it? The answer might be no on some days and yes on other days. And so for me, where an investment would work is not around training, but more around motivation. So I might use a tool that reminds me to work out or to make good choices. I might use a tool that rewards me for doing the job really, really well. But imagine I was a person who didn't know those things. Before you can reward the good performance, I might have to then do a lot of training or give a person a book or a personal trainer. So asking these 3 questions really helps you as the leader of the team know where you should put your investment. And so that's just another quick checkpoint that you can use that will really help you use your training dollars wisely. The other is a 9 box. And I would ask you to put into the chat if you've ever seen or used this before. Oh, I'm going to go back a minute. And Chris, I don't know if you can see the chat, so I'm not able to see it at the moment. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm not seeing anything. So folks, take a minute to pop a yes or a no in the chat right now. Have you ever seen or used a 9 box? No, I got a lot of no's. So Chris, this will be a tool that I'll actually send you after this session. So if people want to try it out, they'll be able to try it out on their own. This 9 box is a really great tool where you can plot all of every single person on your team. And I use this often. Now, if you only have 2 or 3 people, go ahead and just use your force rank. But when you start getting to be over 8 or 9 people, this 9 box is really a great tool. And I will send it out to everyone so that you can use. But while you're looking at it on the screen, what I'll share with you is if you look at the axis on the bottom and the left, you see weak, adequate, or strong. How's their performance? That's going to let you know which column they should be in. And then in this case, we're actually going to measure potential because I view employees as the future of my business, not just how they're performing today, but how they're going to perform for me over time. And that's going to help me determine where I'm going to make my investment. So if you have a person who's performing terribly and they have no potential, they're going to be over here in this 1 box. And I got to tell you something, they should not be there long. I let you know, and then I let you go. If they're in that one box for longer than a season, I blame you, the leader, because you have to do some tools to work them up to improve or work them out of the business. And then let's go to the other extreme. They are strong performing and their potential is super strong and they are irreplaceable. Now, if they are irreplaceable, we should start thinking about what's the next step for them. What do we have in terms of training, having some conversations with them to make sure that we're really taking care of them, because we cannot afford to let them leave our business. This 9 box, I would say you could dedicate 1 hour to this activity. And then I would talk to the other leaders in my business and let them do it separately. Are we all on the same page? This works so great. You know, you're thinking this person's irreplaceable and you talk to your business partner and they say this person's not that great. Well, now we can have a really good conversation around what are we missing? And so this is another tool that I want to invite you to use, because you have to find great people, but then you really have to be strategic around how you train and develop those people. The force ranking is a tool. And then, of course, the 9 box is a tool. I'm just going to check the chat really quick. And I see Chris says, yes, he has used this. Chris, do you want to share maybe in the past where you've seen this 9 box?
I'm very lucky. It's current. I've got Lee Siegel on my side.
Excellent, excellent. So this is not something you share with your employees. This is a leadership tool, a management tool, but this is a great tool to make sure that everyone's on the same page and really to plot out, well, if I have a couple people who need some help, what am I going to do with them? If I have a future star, is there a meeting that they can go to? Is there a mentor that we can match them up with? But really having a solution to every placement on this 9 box is a great strategy. Our year ends on September 30th, and we start the new year, October 1st. This is a perfect time for me and my leadership team to go through this exercise as we're preparing for the new year with our team and what we want to invest in them. So I'm going to keep on moving.
Does this mean that Lee Siegel's going to get headhunted now?
Absolutely not. I'm not that vicious, Chris. But you do make a proposition there for me. All right. And so finally, then you train your talent. And what I would share with you as a leader in adult education is that there is no one size fits all. Really mapping out what the right experience is for a person. It could be a session or a class. Sometimes it really is accessibility. Sometimes I might put a person with a strong leader of a business just so that they can be accessible to what the day in that life looks like. What are some of the obstacles that that person faces? How do they overcome those things? So it's not all about classroom learning or online learning. Those are very important. But as we grow leaders, often it'll be a knowledge exchange that is not formal, but it is strategic. So it doesn't have to be formal, but it should be thought out. It should be planned. It should not be an afterthought. So I just want to encourage folks to pay attention to what your solution is. I use this part as, what is the prescription to the diagnosis? If you have a cold, you don't give a cast. A cast is for a broken something. So what is a good match for wherever your person was on that 9 box? I'm going to just check the chat because I see somebody says, oh, so you guys are joking. Don't give my assets away. So I love that. So really making sure that you have a good match for where your people are, and include your employees in this conversation. Hey, what do you need? What would you like to learn this year? What would you like to learn that would improve your outcome, that would improve your results? Because improved results could include improved pay and reward. So I don't make them a stranger to the process. I include them in the process, because who better to say what is needed than that person? So I'm going to keep on pushing on here. And as we've now found the right people, and then of course train them, the next item up is coaching those people. And so I'm going to ask that you have a coaching process. What we know around coaching for improved performance is when there's employees that are engaged and coached as a regular practice, you actually have better business results. So you're looking at more profit, better customer ratings, and more productivity. So once again, I'm going to go back to the trusted chat, and I'm going to ask, Chris, you've been really good with jumping in there, but I see some other people on our call. I'm going to ask that they take a minute and jump in. I would love to know, or they could actually unmute themselves if that's possible, not sure. But I would love to know what you guys think the difference between coaching and training is. This is my one trick question of the day. It's not really a trick question, but it's a great question. And a lot of different answers come with this. So feel free. I don't see you typing. Let me see if I can see some of the folks. I see Jordan has his hand up. Jordan, are you going to jump in? Let's hear it.
I'll take a stab at it. Training is one-sided. It throws it out and waits for the person to respond, whereas coaching is collaborative and more likely to produce results. That's my guess.
Okay, I like where you're going there. Do we have anybody else that we can unmute? Is anybody else going to take us up on this offer? Richie, I can actually see you. Is it terrible? I see you smiling that I'm calling on you. Can you unmute, Richie? Let's go. Let's get involved.
Hi, can you hear me?
I sure can. What do you think?
Well, I would have to say that training is more to show you the ropes of how things are to get done, and your coaching is just to kind of mold a better. Once you know how to get things done, is how to do it better.
All right, Richie, I'm gonna give you the ding, 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 and the wild applause. Can you hear it, Richie? Can you hear it filling your space there? You're right on the money. And I want to elaborate a little bit on that, because this is so important. You cannot coach what hasn't been trained. And so often people go right to coaching and encouragement, and the true problem or the gap is that the person is not trained. So I want to just take one quick second around what a true training means. If one of your employees is trained, it means that they can do the task, they can explain the task to someone else, and that they can have success in the task consistently. No, bursts of brilliance. Every now and then, like if I had to go do a cartwheel, I might be able to do it. It'd be like a burst of brilliance. But I certainly shouldn't be demonstrating cartwheeling to anybody at this day and age in my life. Okay. So I would consider myself untrained or unskilled. But I could have a burst of brilliance. Like I could do it one time. So if a person on your team is trained, it means that they've done the thing multiple times successfully. And then for whatever reason, with adults especially, sometimes that performance wanes and it dips. Now the coaching comes in and we have to coach back up. Or the performance is really great and the coaching comes in and we want to know why. And we want to make sure that that continues and gets better. And we want to share that kind of energy. But if the task has not been trained, the coaching will not help. So a great way to think about this is with sports. Now, you heard my introduction and you didn't hear anything about sports, but I'm going to give this a go. With basketball, you know, these NBA players, they have a coach. And I think you all would agree that they are really the best at these skills that you're going to see anywhere else. So what does the coach do? Well, occasionally part of their performance will dip. Maybe it's on three-point shooting. Maybe it's on free throws. The coach will come in on that very specific task, and they will talk through and give suggestions to improve the performance back to the level that we know is possible. This is the same thing I'm going to ask you to do, and the way I want you to think about coaching. You want to do a really great job training, and you want to see the person do the job and give them an opportunity to do it on their own consistently. And then when you see the performance waning or inconsistent, then you come in as a support for removing obstacles and really getting that person back to where they need to go. And I'd invite you to use a model for this, which we really like. And what we use is the GROW coaching model. GROW is 4 steps. It's what was the goal? What's the current reality? What are some options on how you can get better? And when is it going to happen? So I'm going to give you an example. This is like such a basic example, but say you have a standard of how you like your phone answered in your business. This is like so very basic. Hello, thank you for calling ABC Business. It's my pleasure to help you. And you train this, and your employee has been doing this, and everything is great until Tuesday. They answer the phone and they say, hello. And that's it. Now is a great time to coach. You start with your goal, hey, here at Nicole's business, this is the standard. Tell me what happened. They said, oh, I was rushing around, didn't know what I was doing. And you say, well, what are we going to do to make sure that you improve this immediately? I can't have you answering the phone that way. And they say, oh, I'm going to do it no matter what. I don't need any help. Just give me, next phone ring. I'm on it. And then I say, as the coach, okay, no worries. When the phone rings, I'm actually going to kind of stand close by so I can hear how well you do. Thank you. It all happens in less than 5 minutes. And I'm using this model for every single task that we have in the business. And it could be 50 conversations a day. It could be with 50 different people. It could be 10 conversations with the same person, but the model doesn't change. The person knows how to do the task. I'm going to use GROW to improve their performance. And so what I've shared with you so far is, how do you find great people? What do you need to do when you get them in the pipeline? How quick you need to be? You need to have a strategy for your people. You find great people, and then you need to train them. You need to onboard them, and you need to have a long-term approach for how we're going to develop these people to be the future leaders of your business, or at least the most productive folks in your business. And then we find them, we train them, and then we got to coach them. Coaching is very important to keep them at peak performance. And then ongoing is reward and recognition. You have to say thank you to folks. You have to reward them and give them, rather it be very public recognition or private thank yous, parties, food, all of those things separate from pay. So you have to do all of those things with your people. Now, I have on my watch that we have about 20 minutes. I have a thank you here. I also have a QR code. I'd love for folks, if you're looking at your screen, to scan that and to connect with me via LinkedIn, because I would love for our conversation to continue should you ever have a question about some of the things we talked about. But Chris, right now, I am open for any questions that folks on the line may have.
I'd like to put one out there to you, Nicole.
Sure thing.
I love at the end that you brought up the pat on the back as opposed to just the pay. You know, it's all about pay at the end of the day for sure, but in combination, those two are kind of powerful things. And how would you implement that into a company's culture so that you know managers are using that simple, you know, just a thank you, good job? Because I don't know, in flooring, we always hear about the complaints first and the things that went wrong, and because they're the things that bother us, and the pat on the back gets pushed aside.
So, Chris, before I answer that, I would love to see the folks. I want to stop sharing. So I'd ask people to take 1 second right now, if they haven't gone ahead and snapped that QR code, to do it. I'm going to answer the question, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, great. All right, so I see a couple of faces and lots of names on here, so that's fantastic. A couple of things, Chris. One is to make it part of your strategy. Recognition is one of those things that is the last thing on people's list. It can be an afterthought. Oh, you're driving home and you remembered, I got to say thank you. And how you recognize people and how often you do it. You said pay is it at the end of the day. And while pay is really important, the statistics show largely it is not the most important thing. People work for people at the end of the day. You know, there's this new concept that family is taboo to talk about. You know, how you say, oh, we're like a family. This current employee base, you know, they don't always love that. But the truth is, many of us spend more time at work than we do with our family in any given week. Like vital, vibrant, moving around time. And so how important it is to have recognition built into your strategy. So I'll tell you one thing that I do. I have, on Fridays, we have What's Good. This is a practice I invite you to take on as your own, harvest it. There's no stealing in learning and development, only harvesting. But on Fridays, every single person on my team sends me a note and they tell me what's good. As a leader of the department, I hear about what's bad all the time. I hear every problem, I hear every concern, every opportunity. But on Fridays, they get a chance to tell me only what's good. And sometimes we do this meeting live. It could be very quick, just a quick go around, a quick huddle, what's good. And it's an opportunity for the team to brag. It is unabashed bragging. You know, I'm going to be able to share what great thing I did or what I'm so happy about, or, you know, it could even be personal. My son started on the basketball team, or I got a big contract, or I made a big sale, or I'm going on vacation. I do not dictate what it is, but I give them an opportunity to share that good news. Initially, when we first started this practice, people really struggled. They would come to the meeting and they would say, I have a good thing, but first let me tell you what's wrong. And I'm like, that's not this meeting. You know, I have to really stop them. So we calendar it literally every single Friday. That is what we do. That's just the first step in our recognition process. So I would ask you to make it a strategy. If this is not your personality, so I'll give you an example. I work for someone who might not be considered as fluffy as I am. Shocking, right? That somebody could not be this way. But it is true. Their personality is very different from mine. And so what they do is they actually have time set aside where they earmark various recognition that they want to give throughout the month. At the beginning of the month, they put it on their calendar. and then it automates it. So they think about it one good time, and then it happens all through the month. And some of those messages, those birthday wishes, those anniversary wishes, those you did a great job wishes, I then get those people coming in telling me how much that meant to them. So you really have to treat recognition as seriously as you treat other parts of your business. And many people stay at a job making less money where they feel more rewarded and connected than you would imagine. It's a very high rate. People want to feel valued. They want to be compensated, yes, but not at any cost. There's a verse that says, what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? Right? So you can gain everything, but what are you giving up for that? So we want to work in spaces that treat us well and that appreciate us. And as a leader of the business, you have to do that. And if it's not you, find someone else on your team who loves to do it. Give them a little kitty, a little budget, and let them do donuts or cupcakes or whatever it is, and go to town and make that a part of your culture. So long answer, but I'm very passionate about that topic.
Good answer.
Any other questions for me?
Well, I got another one for you.
I'm ready.
The baptism by fire. How do you address that? I mean, it blows my mind. I went through a baptism of fire when I joined this industry. Almost caused me to sort of just move on and join another industry, but I stuck with it because I made some friends. Right, when you make some friends, all of a sudden you got another reason to show up at work.
Right.
But it just blew my mind that here I am back in the day being paid $2,500 a month for the first 3 months up until the point where I get my assessment, and I've lost interest. I've if you want to be interesting in this world, you've got to be interested, it's the saying. Mm-hmm. And so why would I invest as a manager $2,500 a month just to lose that person on the third month because they found something else to do? What a waste of money.
Yeah, one of the things we do at CCA, we support our members. This is one of the really brilliant things around being part of our membership. We have a best-in-class onboarding. And so what happens is, I don't think people wake up and say, how am I going to just throw the person in the fire? What happens is the kitchen is smoking. Your chef has quit and there's customers waiting to be fed, and so you're trying to be the waiter and the cook and the maitre d'. And usually when you hire the person, oh, I'm so happy that the person is there, that is how it happens. And so we really recommend having a structured, employee-led onboarding process. Why should it be employee-led? Well, because we know from our research that largely the leader may be overwhelmed or incapable of giving you that kind of really personalized assistance at that moment of hire. So we really, we provide that for our members, and I'm here encouraging you to have an onboarding process that is equally structured and employee-led. I'll give you a quick story around the trial by fire and a difference that being connected to your employees can make. We had a person hire a young man for a sales role. He was really great. I mean, just had a natural inclination to make connections with customers, and he could sell you snow in Alaska. And, but he was broke. He had been unemployed, and this is his first job in a while. And the leader in that business really saw something in them. And week 2, they pulled him aside and gave him $500 to go and buy 2 jackets and 3 pair of trousers. He said, "You're so good at the part. I want you to look the part too." Now, this guy could have quit, right? Like he hadn't been there for a really long time. You don't really know what's going to happen. But the $500 is cheaper, like you said, Chris, to the $5,000 it'll take to replace this person in a couple of months. And that investment showed up in top sales for last year. Just that kind of connection, that kind of onboarding, that kind of paying attention. And so I always say, let the employee lead it if possible. So having a structure and being able to hand it over to them and say, look, I'm going to be running around, but these are the things you need to do each week. Come get me when you need me. And then always be listening and alert for how you can make that experience one of the best experiences ever. And what we know for sure is what you give to employees, they will give to your customers. If you don't give them anything, they don't give a whole lot to the customer. But the way you treat them, we've seen statistically, is the way they'll treat your employees. And so that business cycle continues to roll, and you will then see all the benefits into your business.
Good stuff.
Any other questions for me? Everyone has muted themselves. I'm not seeing many faces, but I am certainly available. Chris, one of the things I owe to you, I'll send you a clean copy of a 9-box if you want to share with the folks who've joined this call, or in a future communication, you sure can. And if anybody is connected with me via LinkedIn, don't be a stranger if you have any questions that come up in the future.
Tremendous. Nicole, unless we're going to get some last minute questions come in, I think we can let you go and get on with your busy day.